distinction. We don't have the rights for that. Welcome back to another episode of SJU here on Fandom Entertainment. Good morning, happy Monday, happy whatever time it is. I always say good morning like we're the only place that matters. Happy day for everyone. We're going to be talking a lot of Marvel news. We're going to be doing some fan questions, talking some Disney Plus and some Hulu. I've got a great panel with me this morning. I've got my Ed Greer. Good morning, Ed.
Hello, guys. How are you doing?
I've got my Emma Fyffe.
Good, whatever time of day it is for you.
See, look at us. Inclusive. I've got my Joe Starr.
We are all on Earth in the morning cosmically.
It's 8 o'clock
First time
somewhere.
I've spoken this morning, and that's what happened to me.
Good morning, and I am Danielle Radford. And so first we're going to be talking about Disney is moving up their MCU content. This is via Deadline. And so the release of Marvel's The Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney Plus has reportedly been moved up to August. Now, as we know, it was originally set for a fall 2020 debut, which that could be any time during the fall. Fall, weirdly enough, lasts longer than all of us seem to think it does. But it had been pushed back because it's true. People don't know that fall goes into like December.
It does. People are, it's so funny because like the second November hits, people are like, it's winter, but all of November is the fall.
You're wrong.
It's all parts of December are fall. But anyway, so.
Most of December is fall.
Thank you.
Winter is not yet coming.
We're fall truthers over here. So, and it had been pushed back because, you know, there were those earthquakes in Puerto Rico and they were doing some shooting. But it looks like now it's being moved up even further than it was. So it's going to be August of this year. And so it's also post-Mandalorian, everything's looking a little bit sparse, but they're moving up this. They're also moving up WandaVision. And so do we think that this is a good move to kind of keep people interested in the original programming on Disney Plus?
Oh, absolutely. I think when Disney Plus, like we talked a little bit about last week, I think when Disney Plus initially was like, here's everything that's coming, it looked amazing until you noticed the dates. And, you know, I don't think it also helped that once Mandalorian was wrapped, everyone kind of went, what else? And at that point, so much of the archive stuff on Disney Plus, which I really think they're relying on to be their bread and butter in between stuff, had already been pulled. I think you know, it's not like a panicky like, oh God, we gotta, but it's a smart move to just start cranking stuff up a little bit. You know, Netflix at this point is just in a constant state of shoveling things into your mouth.
Watch the circle.
Yeah, watch the circle. Watch the circle. Message. Watch the circle. Hashtag. Right now. But yeah, I think, to hit critical mass, they got to really start working on just making sure that the rhythm is constant.
Yeah. It's not surprising to me, too, that something like these Marvel series would be in good enough shape, effectively, that they can say confidently, you know what, we can push this release date up a little. Because when you think of the sheer number of Marvel movies that have come out in the last year, and now that you have Kevin Feige transitioning into being, you know, the chief creative officer of all things Marvel the End that are on a screen, I'm not shocked that they've got it down to like such a science at this point that they can get these things done quickly. And if they are in that position, then it absolutely makes sense for them to push it up so that we are looking down the pipeline of more original programming sooner rather than later.
And even if not, you know what helps that? Money. You know what Disney got? Money.
Well, I just think also, I think the original release dates were to see if they could stretch it, and if internally and if after certain polls they were just like, I don't know, man, these people will seep into our, you know, I think they're, you know,
much better to set a later release date and then say, hey, actually, this is going to come out a couple months before you thought it was going to.
You're being given a gift.
Right. Yeah. Rather than having to go, you know what? This isn't really ready. We got to push back.
And this is a lesson for anyone who works in customer service or anyone who is any kind of a secretary or anything. Make sure that you're setting reasonable expectations, and that way when you go beyond them, people are very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
It's worked. Yep, it's worked gangbusters.
From your friends who've had lots of jobs. Just so you know,
the freelance manual.
Freelance manual.
But yeah, I was born waiting for this show, so I want this.
Well, that's great. So, what are you expecting from a show like this? Like, what are you looking forward to?
Well, I think we touched on it maybe one time in this cycle, but man, I love street level superhero-dom. I love the spy section of the Marvel Universe, which allows regular human beings to have some influence over world events rather than just lifting up your eye patch and being a Deus Ex Machina sometimes, you know what I mean? Or getting thrown around or leaping over stuff like Captain America did in the first Avenger, just sort of jumping. So what's your power, dude? I just kind of jump out of the way and stuff. Like, dudes come and try to test me, and I just jump away. So the human characters doing more than that, sign me up. That's kind of my jam.
Yeah, because I mean that's exactly what Captain America and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier rather they're people.
Yeah. Right. I'm mostly looking forward to, and I've said this before in numerous places, I pop hard for friendship. I love friendship.
You love a good friendship.
I love a good friendship, and especially I love when enemies become friends, man. That's like my favorite thing in the world. I love a turn like that. And so this idea that these guys hated each other, for lots of different reasons, but then also they had a little bit of jealousy because, like I'm Cap's old best friend, I'm Cap's new best friend, and then like getting together and working together and seeing how that dynamic of like, we're both Cap's exes and now we have to like get along and like make, do our stuff together. I'm really excited to see that interplay, and I like the way that they work together, and I think that they've had some of the best and funniest scenes together. So yeah, I'm just really, the enemies become friends. Put it in my face.
Right, and I don't want to get political, but there are themes of handing things over to people, and I'm not talking about Falcon necessarily being Captain America. I'm talking about Captain America as a symbol and as an ideal. The whole reason it works is the person.
Yeah.
And when you take that person out and you just sort of say, hey, other person with superpowers and that could lift a Volkswagen, put this on. You look great. Go out and be Captain America. You can't do that. No matter who you are, you can't do that. So over the course of the series, they're going to explore like somebody that's more traditional in Captain America doesn't quite work. Somebody that's not traditional might not quite work for you because Captain America is an idea, and as America, it evolves. And maybe it takes a little dip sometimes, and sometimes it goes up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it seems like that's what exactly what the show's going to be about. I don't think you have to put an asterisk like I'm going to get political. Like it's a show.
Captain America.
It's a show about a group of people arguing over a shield with an American flag on it. Like, but I agree with you. I love that theme of, and these are themes they sort of hit when Falcon got the shield, in the comics, which the show dealt with those themes head on, and also the meta of that was fans yelling back and forth about it. But I love the concept of like, the federal government sort of trying to control the image of what Captain America is with U.S. Agent, because I agree with you. The thing that makes Steve Rogers Captain America is Steve Rogers,
right?
And you can't just deputize.
Right,
he can, but the government
totally.
But even that idea, even pre-Falcon, pre-Bucky, even just the idea of Steve Rogers is what makes Captain America made the Fetty nervous. The fact that no, this dude symbolizes America. You have nothing to do with it. Like, you can't focus group it, you can't control it, you can't rein it in, you can't deputize them, you can't sign, no amount of Sokovia Accords can rein in the spirit of your country.
Sure.
Is such a cool idea. And the idea of, these two guys sort of trying to figure out what that means now that Steve is gone. And really a whole country trying to figure out what that means when Steve is gone is cool. What I'm really looking forward to is I think Captain America, more so than the Captain America sort of corner of the MCU, more so than anything else really. Like, there's a lot of stuff from the MCU that's like, I don't know, tech, just general tech, and there's a little bit of magic and stuff like that. But I think the Captain America corner has firmly figured out what it is. It is the Tom Clancy corner of the Marvel Universe. Black Widow falls into there. All the Cap movies fall into that. I think this series will fall into that. This chunk of the universe knows exactly what it is and where it belongs genre-wise. So I'm looking forward to just seeing them being able to push that out further.
And just last things last, it's just using superheroes the way I think you should use them, to elevate genres.
Absolutely.
Because it's like, what if Jack Ryan could kick a dude 42 feet?
Yeah.
That's cool. It's cooler. Sorry.
What if Alex, I don't know, whatever, Tyler Perry's dude, what if he had wings and was like flying around?
Yeah. Alex Cross?
Alex Cross.
Nice.
Miscasting. Okay, so there's obviously... sorry.
Holy miscasting.
Totally miscasting Alex Cross. So we were talking about obviously like the world of Marvel having to deal with the loss of a Captain America, but so does just Marvel in general, and especially like this. I feel like there is so much pressure on this if you're the first one out of the gate as one of these like Marvel Disney Plus shows. What do you feel like it would need to kind of hit or accomplish in order to hit the ground running? Do you feel like there is a lot of undue pressure on it and we should all calm down, or do you feel like like you need to really hit a certain beat?
I kind of feel like there is some undue pressure on it, and I think maybe that just comes from the point of view of exactly what we were talking about, is that because this falls in that Captain America, Tom Clancy corner of the MCU, I'm not worried about this show. This is already a genre show that is being elevated by the fact that superheroes are in it. Mm-hmm. So as long as it stays true to that, then I think it's going to be a success, quite honestly.
Yeah, I think amongst, sort of like hardcore fans that are really trying to get into the trenches and like sort of Johnny Mnemonic themselves into like all things MCU news and this and that, I think there's probably some pressure there. This is the first show out the gate for anyone who's still very salty about the passing of the Jeff Loeb era, who's still very frustrated that Defenders got axed.
Okay.
I think there could be some like, okay, you took away my stuff.
Yeah.
What is this stuff? Like, is this stuff going to be good? It had better be good. It had better at least be like Daredevil season 2, season 3 good.
I will say that I do think that there is a level of this show needs to be a certain amount of serious in terms of its consequences, in terms of the themes that it's dealing with, just because if you look at, of course, the Marvel Netflix shows, they were very R-rated for the most part. They were skewed towards an adult audience. So it definitely does have to have some of that appeal, I think, in order to convince those particular people that these are worth watching. However, I do also think that these shows are potentially for a different audience.
Sure.
So I think they certainly don't want to alienate that audience, but there's a certain percentage of that audience who I think are just not going to be happy no matter what, because we're not going to get like crazy decapitations and sex scenes.
But like, how could they mess it up? Like, let's think of some ways they could mess it up. Like, they shoot it like Curb Your Enthusiasm. Just like straight digicams. Just like, hey, what's up? These look great. Look, I just think, how could they mess it up? I don't know too many ways other than to have a pretty low production value and sort of to have sort of a low stakes vibe to the proceedings. Those are the only two ways I think they can mess it up.
That's going to be, and that's not something we're going to have to worry about. They still have all the old props. Those guys could probably still fit into their old suits.
And knowing how hard these are going to bleed into the MCU, I mean, not even just bleed it. Sorry, let me wheel that back. Knowing that these are literal now just blocks in the Lego kit, I don't think these are going to end up being something like Mandalorian, where asterisk, I love every episode of Mandalorian. But I don't think anyone had any expectation or context for what a Star Wars TV show was going to be. So when they got a weekly episodic half-hour Monster of the Week, like sort of almost throwback television, I don't think people necessarily like knew what to do with it a lot of the time, but I think with there's a stronger mission statement with the MCU TV shows that I think is going to really affect what you get, and I think what you get is going to be much closer to mini movies than The Mandalorian.
Yeah, was. That was actually something I was gonna bring up. Is do you think that these Marvel shows are going to fall more into the episodic category, or do you think that they're going to be heavily serialized like the Netflix shows that came before them?
I think they're going to be hardcore.
Yeah, they're going to be hardcore serialized, especially like just to move on to this one smoothly. So we're talking about WandaVision, talking about things that kind of fill in these building blocks. The Scarlet Witch show is apparently going to be a huge part of what is coming up in Phase 4. It's supposed to be coming off of, or like a huge part of like the Doctor Strange movie, and so which is they're building this next phase, and to have one of these Disney Plus shows be the hub of it and be something that is so important to it, that is what we were expecting, I think, within Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which we obviously that didn't wind up coming to fruition. So what do you think this means for her character as far as the larger MCU goes? Do we think that that's going to mean that she's going to have a more important or expanded role, or does it just wind up being like everything kind of surrounds her, much like in a was it like a House of M? Was that not House of M, but where she was like, no more mutants? That was House of M.
Yeah, that was House of M. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's fun. Yep.
It's interesting because I'm really, really looking forward to WandaVision. Sort of my understanding of what it is that it's like a sitcom, but in a really uncomfortable way.
Yes.
Of like, this is her like sort of 50s housewife vision. It just, the concept behind it sounds really, really cool.
Yeah.
And so I do think that it's more of it's not so much that she is the central character driving force, as she's almost taking the role of like a Doctor Strange in Infinity War, where he saw only one possible future where things worked out, and so he had to like basically let that future happen.
Right. Again, I think just because of I'm such a I loved this era of comics with the House of M, and this is like go read the comic. But essentially, we find out that she had like kids with vision. They turned out they weren't real, and they kind of blocked her memories from remembering that. One day, all the memories come back, and she loses her mind, and starts like making things and shaping them into like this old universe. And then at the end, everyone's like attacking her, and then she's like no more, and then all the mutants go away, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what this feels like to me. Where it's like she is like cracked and losing it, and maybe she does find this like dimension where this is happening, and it winds up having this ripple effect across all dimensions.
Well, I think I think
and that's pure speculation.
Just purely based on tea leaves and little puzzle pieces, I think Wanda's your Thanos for Saga Part 2.
That is interesting.
I think WandaVision is. I think a lot of people are kind of writing it off because it's like, what, they're doing like a weird campy thing.
Oh no!
But it's such like
it's gonna be like effed up though.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, I think it's like seeing someone crack.
I think it's gonna be really dark and bleak. Like the idea that someone has like as powerful as Wanda has retreated into her own like version of reality because she hasn't gotten over the death of Vision. I think you got a couple little breadcrumbs in Saga 1, just those little moments where. All of a sudden she just shows up and starts just nuking everybody in Wakanda, and someone's like, "We just had her back in the tower." The whole what? But the fact that WandaVision was going to then jump into the second Doctor Strange movie, and the fact that we lost someone over creative differences in the Doctor Strange movie usually means that creative differences butt up with the greater good.
Yep.
Kevin Feige's greater good of like, no, like we got to move some. We like, I don't know. I just think all the stuff's aligning that this is going to lead to sort of an Avengers disassembled.
Yes. Which is the next thing that happens after that, which is also one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Which has She-Hulk in it.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. He's sort of building up this new version of the Avengers, minus now the big guns are gone, only to sort of see it betrayed by one of their own, or however it is they're going to play Wanda. But yeah, I think she's your Thanos.
Yeah, and also to complement that point, if there's one thing Marvel does very well is they'll go, here is some crazy person from another planet, and they have a whole nother ethos, and they have a bunch of power, we got to stop them. But also, here is your neighbor who's been crapped on a lot. They have a bunch of power.
Yep.
And how much that really messes with the hero types. I mean, they had a dude named Michael Korvac. He got put together and he got sort of atom smashed like Dr. Manhattan, and he flew around on a Barca lounger in space and fought guys like the Silver Surfer and Galactus and stuff because he was that powerful. Just like Marvel's good for this, giving some weird person a bunch of powers, and obviously Scarlet Witch used to be just sort of, now you fell out of your chair, and now she's become like, now you have a whole new reality. You know what I mean? It's like so that graduation.
Replace your red blood cells with chairs.
Yeah, exactly. So your blood cells are cats. So I think that this whole thing of a person that's lost their way, being able to be the next big bad. That's a real Marvel jam. Marvel plays that song really well.
Oh, yeah.
And so and just because we're going to start talking about more of other kind of the TV stuff. We love you, Jeff Loeb. Sorry about your luck. What other?
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service, Jeff Loeb. What other streaming services? What can they learn from the launch of Disney Plus?
Release your shows weekly. Release your shows on a week-to-week basis. It keeps them in the conversation.
Yeah, I am actually surprised that. Well, I'm surprised and I'm not surprised that Netflix at this point, having reached a critical mass, has not now switched more strongly to a week-to-week. Because on one hand, I think with something like The Circle, which I think exploded very big and brightly for like 2 days. Same with Stranger Things season 3. We've talked about that a few times, where like Stranger Things season 1 landed, and that was all anyone could talk about for like a year.
Right.
3 landed, and we were like, and then it was over.
Yeah. Even though I loved season 3 of Stranger Things.
Yeah, but we were wrapped and we were done and we were on to the next thing. So I don't know. I think there's an interesting gamble for Netflix at this point, because I also don't think there's no science yet as to what's actually going to land and what's not. Because just to go back to The Circle thing, I think there's a chance where if you do The Circle as a weekly drop, suddenly it's the new Bachelor. Suddenly every week people are The Bachelor's not trending. #YeahBuddy is trending. You watch The Circle. It's so good.
Seriously, watch it.
It's so good.
Please. For us.
But, equally, hey guys, here's our new thing, The Circle. It's launching. We're not going to drop it as a binge, and it doesn't make a drop in the bucket. I think Netflix knows how to just like tamp stuff into your mouth right now, but they don't know how to delicately taste test yet.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting too, because I totally see that point with Netflix, because with Netflix we also have become accustomed to, since before they were doing original programming, the idea of it being a place to go and binge stuff where everything
it's associated with the brand now.
Exactly, because again they were mostly just acquiring and distributing things that already existed for so long. And we were coming to Netflix to go, great, all of whatever show.
All of Buffy is available. All of Doctor Who I can catch up on.
Exactly. Right. So but that being said, we are now in a world of there being a lot of different streaming services and a lot of them attempting to emulate the Netflix model. And Netflix also does have so much original programming, which, again, when you look at something like a Disney Plus, it truly is coasting on its legacy programming
it's nostalgia
right now.
town.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's coasting on that because it doesn't have any new original programming until February at this point, when the final season of Clone Wars drops.
Yeah.
So it's a weird thing, but I have to tell you, I so enjoyed watching The Mandalorian on a week-to-week basis.
Yes.
And then I look at something on Netflix like the most recent season of Sex Education.
Which I would have watched on a weekly basis.
Totally.
I would have.
Absolutely.
So good.
And that's the
Watch
thing.
Sex Education.
So now I'm not caught up on the second season of Sex Education, and I feel like I already need to be moving on from that because it was all dropped at once.
It's the same as like The Witcher is like, when did that come out? Like
December.
December, and Witcher references already feel super dated.
That's me, man. Toss coins to me. Never.
And that's the thing is with The Witcher, it happened to drop around sort of the winter break time.
Yeah.
So I was able to watch a few episodes at a time, and that was also really fun and exciting. But again, would have loved to watch that on a week to week. So it's
a weird give or take. But I do think with services that are going to do weeklies versus binge, like they got to hit that rhythm. They got to hit that which Disney Plus I just don't. I was actually really surprised that. I was surprised with a lot of the weirdness of the Disney Plus launch.
Yeah.
But the big thing was like, there's nothing like after A, there's no B.
Yeah.
And then after B, there's no C. Okay.
Is this a matter though? Is this a matter of Disney actually being intelligent, or is it they're in the withholding business and always have been?
The vault business.
You know what I mean? You remember?
All right,
you remember?
Yeah.
Remember, you'd be like, oh man, I'm about to go get this copy of Ariel's Gone for 10 years.
She's in the vault.
What?
In the vault.
Did they put water in there? She's gonna reverse drown.
It's like your dad's love. It only comes around every 10 years, and when it does, it's like, wow. But
Yeah.
Man, it's like the Diamond
Ariel went to
Consortium.
get cigarettes.
Yeah, you are right though, Ed, because it does make more sense that something like a Mandalorian they would drop on a week to week because they're like, no, of course we're not going to give it to you all at once. You gotta wait, and then 2 weeks from now it'll be gone for the next
The mouse
20
gang.
years.
The mouse gang
And
will
I
give
feel
you a
like-
taste.
And somehow they're really good at personalizing that too, because in my first little romps with Disney Plus, I was like, I know what we're gonna do. We're gonna watch all the Mighty Ducks movies, and then I didn't immediately, and then 2 weeks later, I was like, finally time to watch and it's gone.
They were gone.
And I think
gone.
Disney was just like, that's what you get for not watching it. Now it's in the vault.
Yep.
All those hockey kids are in the vault.
like, you don't. It's a streaming service. You don't have to put it in the vault. Speaking of things that are in a vault that will never come out, Marvel programming outside
My
of
feelings.
the main. Oh, Jojo Bear. Marvel programming outside of the main MCU is still developing. This is via The Hollywood Reporter. All right, so after the company's restructuring, as we were talking about from the Jeff Loeb era, Marvel Television has officially been rebranded as Marvel TV Studios and has opted to end development of 2 of its 4 animated Hulu comedies. So no longer moving forward are the Howard the Duck series, which I was kind of excited for, and the Tigra and Dazzler, which I was excited for the Dazzler part. The latter of which was paused in December as part of a creative overhaul.
Nice to Tigra.
No.
And Greer likes Tiger.
I agree with
I
like
think
Tigra.
Tigra could be cool.
Probably feel the same way about Silver Sable. The other 2 shows in Marvel's original 4 show, I have some shade. I'm sorry. We'll talk later. The other 2 shows in Marvel's original 4-show animated comedy universe set up at Hulu, which was MODOK and Hit Monkey, they will continue as planned. And so, yeah, the animated crossover The Offenders is probably not going to happen because Howard the Duck would have been a huge part of that. MODOK has an amazing ensemble cast, which I'm sure is a huge part of why it continued to go. It's going to be Patton Oswalt, Amy Garcia, Melissa Fumero, Wendy McClevin-Covey, Ben Schwartz, Beck Bennett, John Daly, and Sam Richardson. That is a crap of a good cast. So does it seem like these are normal moves that happen when you do some restructuring, or does this feel like we might be starting to see some like chinks in the Marvel armor? I said that.
I think I can sum up my part so that you guys can talk intelligently about it. But
Give us some pelts.
yeah. Okay. This is the thing. I think all the time things are developed and they're killed behind the scenes. But we've
Yes.
entered this new era of, hey, everybody, this is a sketch I'm working on. I'm Picasso. I did 1 line. I think I might finish it sometime. It's in Variety. You know what I mean? That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's nuts. People used to be able to sketch in the park without people expecting a friggin' masterpiece. And now you can't. Now you can't. So when you crumple every piece of paper, now you got a bunch of jerks jumping in the trash can trying to unfold and go, what went wrong?
Or what could have been, like,
Right.
looking at your line. I'm going to just stand behind you now every time you're drawing on the show.
Exactly. So that's all I think happened. I think these things happen, but we're in an era where they're reported more.
I totally agree with that sentiment. I think that, we just live in this era where when you have so many different companies out there putting content out on a variety of platforms, be it on television networks or on streaming platforms nowadays, you are always trying to stay in the content rat race, for lack of a better term. So you're reporting on every little thing that you're possibly developing, instead of, again, spending time to like draw a little more than 1 line. Like maybe give that line some other features, so we know if it's a person or if it's going to be a park bench.
And I mean, we guilty.
I was just going to make that joke, so I'm glad that you got it.
One thing I do like about the fact that we are not like, let's go live now, is we at least give things a little bit of time to percolate. So hopefully like a little more context can drop in and stuff like that. And it's also why I do my best to make the appeal of this show the fact that we do Pictionary and Dan discovers new voices in real time more than the news. Because one thing that I really want to be able to like get across to our audience is like, as many shifts as you see, like in Star Wars and in Marvel, and I totally get like this stuff's interesting and we're attached to this stuff. probably 300 shows are killed a week in this town in various stages.
Oh yeah, especially right now or in the next couple of months.
Coming up on pilot season.
There are so many TV shows that will get made that will never see the light of day. You will never ever see them, and just as many that will get made and get canceled after 2 episodes.
Yep.
Part of being a writer in Los Angeles means you are staffed on one series. You just got paid to develop another series. Oop, it's canceled. One of the guys who was producing that has picked you up to write on this other thing, and you've now been paid to write it. Oops, it's canceled. Meanwhile, you've been in development with another thing you sold 3 years ago, and the studio that it was right on the verge of being developed, but now a new SVP of whatever is in place, and he didn't like it, so it's gone. Like it's just such a natural part of this business that, do I love every move that Star Wars makes? No, I don't. No. But this weird beast of quasi knowledge. It's almost like pseudoscience for movie news. It's like Dr. Oz for movie news, where we get
drink that juice.
Where we get so like furious about, and it's like, no, this is so often this is business
normal
as
and it
usual.
happens all the time. But the problem is that when you have these big brands like Marvel and Star Wars, it's getting reported on, and so then people are all up in arms about it. When the reality is, this is happening with 25 other things at the exact same time. You're just not hearing about it because it's not a Marvel or a Star Wars. Like, all of this is art that is being created by humans.
Yeah.
And
before people say, like, oh, well, they shouldn't have put out those press things about how they were going to do it. They don't have any choice. They're bullied into it to try to get along, not even ahead of the story, alongside the story.
Well, and also, and it is in many cases it's just them trying to chase it and be like, well, maybe we know this thing is coming out, because every time a story like this is about to break, as part of journalistic ethics and as part of journalistic the way that they do things, they call people and say, would you like to comment on this thing? We're going to talk about it no matter what. Do you want to comment on it? So of course you have to be like, I have to get out my side before this thing comes out. You just have to, and if you don't, then you should fire your PR person.
Yeah. But it's just, I don't know, a little bit of grain of, I'm not telling anyone to feel a certain way about Kathleen Kennedy's business decisions or anything like that. But just a little bit of grain of salt. Like, I mean, this happens to folks you see at this table on a regular basis. Like, they got 3 things going and now they're gone. Like, because that's just the way it is. And you move on to the next thing. You're working on one day. You're working on Tiger and Dazzler, and you're super pumped because Tiger's a great character with a lot of potential.
I was just saying before we got on the air, okay, we got to address the tiger in the room. She's purring on some books over there, laying on a bag of bread like a bodega cat. And okay, she's just laying.
I would watch Tiger as a bodega cat.
She's laying on a big bag of Wonder Bread, just chilling like.
Stopping crimes, bodega crime.
What's up, sailor?
Bodega crime. I'm into it.
No, I just couldn't stop thinking about how much that guy was like, Birds of Prey's gonna fail because it doesn't give me a boner. Probably loves Tigra.
Oh, dude. Oh, that rippling fur.
I mean, if Marvel's gonna do anything to chase the hidden success of cats, it's a Tiger show.
Okay,
it's a Tiger show.
That's part of it? Oh my God. Is that part of it?
But this is the thing, is that if Marvel canceled Tigra over cats, man, they made a mistake.
But listen, I think you hire, you just do the same cats technology on someone to play Tigra. And you go with it.
And you hire Andrew Lloyd Webber to write some original music for it.
100%.
Yep.
Andrew Lloyd Webber, who is definitely still alive, which I have to remind myself of constantly.
He met Taylor Swift. Yeah, he's alive.
He did.
He's a real person.
I always look. I make fun of myself for it all the time, but Andrew Lloyd Webber was someone who, like, because there's so much just like stank and importance on the name Andrew Lloyd Webber, you're just like, oh, Andrew Lloyd Webber, like Beethoven, and then when he won an Emmy when we were at the Emmys, and I was like, oh, posthumously, of course. Wait, what? That's Andrew Lloyd Webber on stage.
You really thought he was dead?
Wow.
In my head, he just has on like a powder wig and wrote Phantom in like 1402.
Start writing musicals until the 70s.
I'm not a smart person, Emma. I don't know why I have this job. I have this job because I write puns for Honest Trailers. And that wasn't enough, so I was like, I'll produce the show. It's not because I have knowledge or qualifications.
The great composers, Andrew Lloyd Webber, Vivaldi, just all these guys.
Yeah, Bach.
Mozart.
Mozart.
My favorite Mozart.
I love a good
Spider-Mans.
Mozart.
I love a good Mozart. Guys, thank you all so much.
That's where the word concert came from.
Concert comes from Mozart. But yeah, thank y'all for you like and subscribe so we get to make dumb Mozart jokes. And you share, you turn on your notifications, you hit them bells. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Rai, for everything, because we couldn't get to do all of this silly stuff, and this is my favorite part of my day. So thank you all for supporting everything that we do. Our Screen Junkies show, our Oscar picks, is out now. So you can go check that out. It's on Screen Junkies Main.
It's on Screen Junkies Main.
It's on Screen Junkies Main, so you can go and check that out now and disagree with us all the live long day.
Our apologies to 1917, which none of us had seen yet.
We gave you a good look. It happened the weekend before. I was at a funeral. I am free, so just blame the rest of them. I threw you guys right under the bus. Oh, y'all.
I'm more sensitive about bus stuff than you.
Wow.
I'm going to do this. We have really exciting news. I'm very excited to bring this to you. We have a movie fights happening live after the Oscars on February 9th. So after you're done being super cranks about them Oscars, as we all will, you turn in. You turn in, and we are going to be talking about them Oscars in movie fights form.
I love this.
It's going to be really
That's
fun.
a great idea.
Yes.
I'm
great
really,
idea.
really excited. So check that out. Mark your calendars. Movie Fights Live after the Oscars. We've also got a new Charting with Dan later today. And of course, Never Surrender, our Galaxy Quest documentary, is available wherever you get your movies. So go buy it if you want to, because it is pretty fun. And also,
We want to make more things.
we want to make more things, and if you do that, then we get to make more of those kind of things, and those things are really exciting for us. And of course, as we have been, we're spending the rest of January sharing some links where you can donate to help out the Australian wildfires. So please check out those links in the description down below. And next, we are going to end this out on some fan questions. Yay! All right, so I'm going to start with Jason Georges, who asks, what are your favorite cut-to-credits endings from movies? For me, for him, films like Sunshine, Logan, Hereditary, and Knives Out all masterfully combine a memorable final shot with the perfect song to communicate the emotional note that the respective filmmakers want the audience to walk away with. I have an answer for this one.
I have one too.
It is The Breakfast Club.
That's a good one.
It's perfect. He hits up the arm. Don't You Forget About Me comes in.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yep.
It's not like a classic movie, but it's a great final shot.
Well, I'm going to shout out 1917 because the final shot in 1917 is absolutely stunning. It brings everything full circle from the beginning of the movie. There's this gorgeous sunrise. It's great. If you haven't seen 1917, highly recommend it. But the first thing that comes to mind for me, honestly, is the final moment in Something Like It Hot, when they're driving away in the boat, and Jack Lemmon is trying to convince his boyfriend that they should not get married, and eventually is coming up with all these reasons why they can't, and then is like, oh, I'm a man, and he says, well, nobody's perfect, and that's the end.
Ed?
I don't know, man. I'm a dumb old man. I have some real basic B ones. I like
Breakfast Club. We're all friends here.
Okay, well, I like the way they used Painted Black at the end of both Devil's Advocate and Full Metal Jacket.
Okay.
I feel like the way it comes in, it's just like, yeah, what? That was our story. You know what I mean?
Devil's Advocate is a great
With
movie.
both
I
of
love
those
that movie.
movies, that song comes in like, yeah, B-boy stance, what? You know what I mean? I love that. And Fight Club, obviously, Where's My Mind? I think that it's been overplayed maybe. Maybe it's like you served the roast beef too much, and now you think it's dry. You know what I mean? I like
Fight Club, we have the meats.
Right.
We have the names.
The Arby's of movies. Okay,
I didn't say that.
I'm gonna get it from
Some of us like the meats.
from the Mountain Dew lobby and the Arby's lobby. And tell me, I'm more of you than I'd care to admit.
Fight Club has very good curly fries, and
Fight Club has
I go there more than I'd care to admit.
Fight Club's horsey sauce is excellent. So, and one just for the old guys out there, when I was a kid watching Commando, and the general comes up to John Matrix and he says, "Hey, you're gonna do another adventure like this one day, and well, you'll be back in my employ in the army." And he goes, "No chance." I don't know. He sounded like Wolverine from the cartoon. more that than Schwarzenegger. But the bottom line is, this stupid song kicks in, and it's like, "We fight for love, do 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 do. We fight for love." And it's so stupid, but so like bass heavy, and just I feel like Buck from Boogie Nights. It really makes you want to freaky deaky. You know what I mean? It's got this. It's a pretty ill song. I think it's probably the only good song those guys ever made. But yeah, but look up whoever did that song. I think that they're called like Johnny and the Power Plants or something. One of those soundtrack bands. That whole Stan Bush, You Got the Touch era. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, boy, I'm gonna write this inspirational jam for doing push-ups in the dark. Check it out. Push-ups in the dark, get strong, defeat the evil. That whole era of music. It's really good. It's really good.
I mean, naturally, every part of me wants to just be like, oh, well, obviously, Transformers the movie, where Rodimus Prime gathers the surviving Transformers and announces a new era of peace. But then Unicron's head comes orbiting around like it's ever, and then it stops, and the song just goes, "The Transformers!" Doesn't get it better than that. But I want to use this time responsibly.
Why start now?
And I want to plug, if you've never seen it, Google the Walk of Life project, which is just it's just a website. It's not a Tumblr page. It's a website where they're just like, basically Dire Straits' Walk of Life is the best song to end any movie. It's great. It's so funny. Like, they do RoboCop, they do Lost in Translation, they do, and it's just it's this great rhythm where the more you keep watching, the funnier they get, because then you start really getting into the pattern of just waiting for to kick in. And I can't recommend it enough. It's so fun.
Conan the Barbarian ending with that, like he's on the throne. Yeah. But that is a tale for another day.
But honestly, RoboCop ends brilliantly with it, because like he comes in, he shoots the guy out the window, and like it's like da da, and then like on ba-na, like a guy actually thumbs up RoboCop. It's great. It's so good. Make
it's
sure
like
you
Pink
watch
Floyd over here. All right, go ahead.
All right, we're going to do one last question here from Manuel UTD. I almost said a different acronym. That would have been bad. What is the funniest thing someone has shouted out when watching a movie? Mine is when watching The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug. Near the end of a 3-hour movie, we finally see Smaug about to swoop down on the town for some dragon action. The film just ends, and a lady a couple rows in front shouts, "You're joking! All that for nothing!" So that is what Manuel's was.
Okay, this is not actually my story. This is my roommate's story, but it's so funny. I want to share. So basically, she was seeing Star Wars, The Last Jedi, and she'd gone by herself in like the afternoon, and she's sitting next to this guy, and after Luke reveals that he goes, "See you around, kid," and then like disappears, that he had like projected himself, the guy next to her goes, "Oh damn, that's some Jedi shit." That is some Jedi shish. That is some shish of Jedi.
I have a couple. First was a screening we were at together. We were at a screening for the My Hero Academia movie, and anytime Deku in that movie took his shirt off or flexed or did anything, everyone, so much of the audience would freak out and scream, just like, "Ah!" And there was one person who was not having it. Not having it.
Oh, no.
And anytime anyone's like, "Oh my God, Deku!" someone in the audience was like, "He's a child!"
Yeah, but like, stop sexualizing a teenager.
But like, during the movie, it was so hard to just hear it was like a Twitter argument in real time. Just everyone be like, "Oh my God, he's flexing! Oh my God, he kissed that girl!" And someone would be like, "He's just a boy!"
He didn't kiss any girls either.
Or like, was like making hard eyes at her, but they were so furious. He's just a boy.
That's amazing.
When he's violently fighting a bad guy, no arguments. But like, sorry, and it just killed me. And then the one that has stayed with me for years was, I can't remember what movie we were watching, but the preview for what turned out to be The Dark Knight started, and someone in the front with so much authority and cockiness in their voice so loudly just goes, "It's Batman." Just like calling their shot, like when the DC logo pop, just go, "It's Batman," and that has just followed me forever. Anytime I see Batman appear on screen,
amazing.
I do it in the writer's room. Like, we'll just be watching something, I'll be like, "It's Batman." That has followed me forever.
It's amazing.
Oh, that's great.
You know what? There's so many. I go to some theaters where there's a lot of talking. So I sometimes it's a beautiful symphony with so many notes. I can't recount just one. But I did go to a screening one time of the movie Dreamcatcher.
Okay.
Which is a Stephen King joint. Stephen King was in the news recently. Stephen King joint about an alien, I think, that lands in a town and infects all the wildlife. And there's these things called the S-weasels for the word that comes out of your butt. You guys cursed earlier. I refuse. So the S-weasels.
You work clean, and I appreciate it.
They come out of your butt, and they go into the toilet, and then they come back out, and they're these fierce monsters with this like super way underwater, like 1 billion fathoms. Those freaky creatures. Imagine that comes out of your butt, and it's in the toilet, and it pops out to try to get you and kill you. So there's a guy in that situation. He has an oral fixation. He has matches all the time in his mouth to kind of soothe himself, and he's on the toilet with one of them, and it's trying to bust up through the thing. He's sitting on it trying to keep it contained, and he drops his matches out of his mouth, and all his matches go onto the bathroom floor, and he's torn between the compulsion to reach down and try to grab a match to soothe himself, or just stay on top of the toilet, keep this monster at bay. And while he's having the debate, the 2 kids in front of me, one of them goes, "Man, just suck your thumb." So he knew enough about oral fixation to understand the guy's dilemma.
That is amazing.
And offer a solution.
Oh, see, mine is not like, mine happened to Cats. Mine is not, mine is kind of a little like, so I was at a screening of Cats. I think it was the second time I saw it. And there were a bunch of people who did not know each other, but we all wound up in this like same row. And as I think they came to like watch it earnestly, and then there was another couple people in the row in front of us. But the magic of Cats sweeps you away, and it doesn't matter if it's a rowdy screening or not. You're gonna get excited, and you're gonna start like having fun and whatever during Cats. And the people in front of us were like not into it at all, because we were trying to be like quiet. We were like, the people I was with, we were passing notes and stuff. The dudes next to us who seemed like they were in our group, they were like loud. They didn't care. They were like, "Hell yeah, Bumblerita!" Like they didn't care. And so the dudes in front of us, finally at one point, when we're watching something and one of the I think it's like when the railway cat comes on and someone's like, "That's the railway cat." Like, and then one of the guys goes like, "Can you please be respectful of the railway cat?" Oh no! And then like the person has to come over and like tell us to be quiet. This was like an Alamo. Right. At the end of it, when the name of the railway cat comes on, the 2 people in front of us start clapping. They are clearly friends or relatives of the railway cat.
No.
Oh, this town.
or like they knew him, or they knew like his friends or something like that.
Railway
like
was a Jellicle cat.
Oh yeah, or like they clearly knew someone that was somewhere like related to that scene, or someone who had like shot that scene or something. God. There was something very important to them about that scene. That
y'all were messing it up.
The worst. And it wasn't us. We were passing notes and being very responsible good boys and girls. It was the people next to us that were like not being super cool.
The only other one I got is when I still worked at Warner, we were at our department got to go to a screening, Mad Max Fury Road. It was like a couple days after the executives had seen it, and there was like a really kind of cool buzz. Everyone's like, "Oh my God, we did something amazing!" And so it was really. And there was a guy in my department who was from Sweden, who was very kind, very quiet, didn't really speak a whole lot. Like we sat across from each other, and I don't think we spoke for like a year. He was just very quiet, like. And we didn't ever exchange like actual words for like a year. And so we're all watching. He was sitting next to me while we're watching Mad Max, and. As soon as the storm sequence ends, what a lovely day, blah, 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 blah. The storm sequence ends, he stands up, fist pumps, and goes, "Yeah! F yeah!" But he just, like the movie, it was beautiful. Mad Max Fury Road compelled him out of his own body in front of, not just, because it's not just like you're seeing it with folks, he's like there with his bosses.
Right.
You know, and like our department head, you know, who was like a huge, like senior executive at Warner Brothers, and he's just like, yeah! And that was a beautiful thing.
That's
and
pretty
everyone's
great.
just like, he's right. Like,
He's right. That's great.
absolutely right.
Excellent.
All right, so thank you all for joining us so much. Thank you for those great questions. Those were amazing. We're going to go ahead and skadoots out of here, but first I'm going to, Ed, where can the people find you?
At Edgar Destroys on Twitter, at the Reboot It channel on YouTube. Reboot It, not rebooted, Reboot It. And we try to reboot stuff in about an hour. Sometimes we fail. It's pretty awesome. No net, baby. And Nerd Goat podcast. We talk to interesting people about their favorite fictional character. Their nerd greatest of all time.
That's great. Emma, where can the people find you?
I am at Emma Fyffe all over the internet, wherever Emma Fyffes are sold.
Thank you very much. And of course, we do want to, before we head out, we do want to say, give our thoughts and prayers to all the families and everyone who lost folks during the helicopter crash. Obviously, people are talking about Kobe and his daughter, but there were 9 victims of that crash. Let's make sure that we're keeping all of them and their families in our hearts at this time.
Yes.
Make sure that you follow us on social media at Screen Junkies U. You can find us there on Twitter. And thank you all so much for joining us today. And we will see you here tomorrow. Bye.